Hi guys, and welcome to another video. And today I'm going to be reading the second chapter to The Puppet Master, since I did the first chapter of this the other day. So this will be part 2 of The Puppet Master. And the next chapter is called Stare of the Stranger, and it has a picture of a guy in a cloak. The footsteps clicked closer and closer, and they stopped. "Will you," boomed a voice, "be attending my most marvellous show?" Melina turned to face the voice and gasped. Shining through the darkness was a pair of glistening yellow eyes. Their calm, reptilian blinking horrified her, but she found she couldn't look away. The pupils widened, leaving only a dash of colour, like tiny specks of amber in onyx. Momentarily the eyes blinked shut, and only then did Melina notice the parents they belonged to, an imposing giant whose scared hands were adorned with gold rings, each so thick they forced his fingers apart. He wore black trousers with gold and red beading, a black waistcoat, also trimmed with red and gold, and a overcoat with a fax-fur collar. Melina was certain this was the master of marionettes. I don't think so. I'd like to, but we don't have the money. No money. One of the poor folk, are we? Are you? Sorry, he snarled. But he continued, looking Melina up and down. If your general deportment and physique, the arch of your brow, the length of your neck, is anything to go by, I believe that at some time, perhaps many moons ago, but certainly at some point, your family may have had some importance. But I digress. He lowered his head, locked his eyes as Melina's. In my experience, is considerable. It is as vast as the heavens, as deep as the oceans, as rich as all Bohemia. In my experience, poor folk are little more than animals, and try as they might, there is no way they could fully appreciate the whole nuisances of my show. Melina restrained herself from wiping the master's spit from her face. She fidgeted, pulled her coat tight, and tried to look away. But again she couldn't. His eyes held her still. Her head rolled back, her arms dropped to her sides. She no longer felt the cold, and she was no longer aware of where she was. So you've nothing to say, scoffed the master, placing around Melina like a fox circling a chicken pen. Where's your gumption, your mettle, your pluck, your sense of pride? Your family must be ashamed to have brought such a meek and miserable creature into the world. Am I right, Am I not right? He demanded. But you can't hear a word I'm saying, can you? You're wrong, replied Melina. She could hear him. She had managed to hurl herself back into the real world. She was aware of the wind and the frost and the grisly bear of a man standing over her. You're wrong, she repeated, staring into his eyes as absently as he had evaded hers. You know nothing about me, nothing at all, so keep your thoughts to yourself. She lowered her gaze. If you don't mind, she added quietly. Puppet Master's face turned a beetroot red. His chest expanded. The veins on his forehead bulged. His whole body trembled, just as it looked, as if he might explode with rage. He let out a mighty roar of laughter. Melina thought the whole city would feel its reverberations from the top of the castle, high on the hill, to the muddy depths of the riverbed. The laugh went on and on. Eventually, it subsided and he began to speak. Remarkable, he laughed. All my life I've played with people the way a car might tease a mouse. I circle them, psychologically speaking, sometimes physical, you understand? Creating dread, observing their terror grow and grow until it takes over their being from the inside out. I watch the colour drain from their cheeks and then I turn with a swish of my cords and leave them. With uncertainty and fear burning right into their core, I control them. What else would a puppet master do but pull people's strings, but chew? You answered back. I applaud you. Melina, Lucas's voice rang out. Melina, where are you? I'm certain we shall meet again very soon, in fact. The master glanced over his shoulder. Zdinka, to my carriage. Two short figures, swathed in hooded cloaks, emerged from the shadows and stood at either side of him. Shiny round-toed shoes jutted out beneath the bellowing black coat. The master departed with a swoosh off his coat. The hooded figures followed so close it looked as if he had extra limbs. I guess you'd be here. But who are they? Called Lucas, hurrying towards Melina. Are you all right? He asked, laying a hand on her shoulder. He and Melina had been best friends for longer than Lucas could remember. No one understood him like she did. They couldn't have been closer. I'm really sorry I'm late. Where were you? I got bored waiting on the square. Lucas dismissed Melina's crossness with a wave of his arm. I'm here now, and just in time, by the looks of things. What do they want? I'm really not sure what they wanted, Melina frowned. The man is the puppet master in charge of the show. He appeared from nowhere, and I certainly began to feel very odd, as if I was in a dream. But look, it says it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It opens Friday. I'd love to see it. Lucas read the poster. Lucas read the poster, so would I, but it's too expensive anyway. Let's go. I didn't like the look of him. He made you as jumpy as a jack-in-the-box. Look at you, you're shaking. You know my mother would have had a fit if she'd seen him. She's always been terrified of puppets, ever since she was little. Dancing corpse, that's what she calls them. She shouldn't be afraid of them. They're not exactly dead. It's more as though they're always between life and death, waiting to become whatever the puppeteer needs them to be. That's what Father used to say. I don't think that would make her feel any better, Lucas laughed. Here, take my gloves before your fingers turn to icicles. Nestled deep in the valley, formed by 7 hills, the cry was draped in the darkness of a winter evening. Melina and Lucas set off, chatting about what they'd done during the day. Almost every street corner they passed was occupied by a chestnut rooster or pretzel seller, calling to customers. The aroma of chestnuts blistering on hot coals filled their noses. All across the city squares emptied as market stalls were cleared of goods. And packed away for the night. Rattling trams filled with beady-eyed office clerks who had put their papers to one side, and with factory machinists who had shut down their clanking machines inside, with wives and mothers put pots on to boil, stoked fires and called their children off the streets and out to the parks. As they stepped in front of him, a toy maker took a wooden bird from cloth, laid it at his feet. He wound it and placed it on his grubby hand. "Good evening," he called, nodding to Melina and Lucas in turn. "Can you spare a moment to do my wares? Observe how he flaps his wings and pecks my palm, sir. I think your friend would love to take the fine fellow home with her. I have plenty more. Look, every colour, every size, every type of bird you could wish for." The toy maker lunged towards the ground with the unpredictability of a madman. His eyes darted from one to the next as he wound up all the birds and set them hopping and pecking and whirling across the cloth. "Look at them go, cheap little birds. Would you like one? Would you like me to name one after you? What are you called?" "Melina Proshkovskova," Melina answered politely. How about this one, Melina? I'll give you a good price. Or how about this fairy fellow? He pulled a clockwork mouse from his pocket, turned the key on its back, set it scuttling across the ground. "I only need a coin or two to buy a sausage for my supper." "They're all nice, but I'm afraid we can't afford one," said Melina. The toy maker kicked out at the birds. "They're all very nice, but I'm afraid we can't afford one," he mocked in a squeaky voice. "Don't lie to me. You can't be short of the crown or two." "I'm not lying," Melina insisted. "We really can't." "Think you're better than me, do you?" he hissed, tossing the jittering toys into a sack. "Think you're too good for my birds? You'll be sorry when my birds have gone." Melina pulled a coin from her pocket. "Take this," she offered. "It's not enough for a bird, but it's all I have, really." Asked the toy maker. "That's really all you have?" Melina nodded. "Thank you for your kindness." He took the coin, threw the bundle of birds over his back, and disappeared down a side street. "I hope he'll be all right," said Melina as he vanished from view. "Don't worry about him. You try to help. Come on, Baba will be wondering where you are." But Melina was worried about the toy maker. She suspected the birds were his only companions. She wished she had enough to buy one. Baba had taught her to be generous, and she'd never forgotten her tale of the conceited tradeswoman. She could hear it now, as clearly as if Baba were whispering in her ear. And this is the tale of the conceited tradeswoman story, which I will read. And then we're almost at the end of the chapter. So, the conceited tradeswoman was a stupid creature who made a living buying poultry from country people and selling them in Prague for great profit. One day a farmer came from Jehov and sold her a dozen chickens for a very good price. She felt like having chicken for her dinner, so she cut one open and, to her delight, discovered several grains of gold in its stomach. Greedy as she was, the tradeswoman cut open the rest of the chickens, and there inside each of them, plump creatures, was grain after grain after grain of glittering gold. She couldn't believe her good fortune. When the farmer returned a week later, he agreed to sell her more of his hens if she promised never to sell them on to anyone else. She agreed and soon became one of the richest people in Prague. But she never shared her wealth with anyone. A few weeks later, a tradeswoman was on the way to collect rent from one of her tenants. When an elderly beggar stopped her, she crossed Karlov Bridge. "Good lady, could you spare me a crown?" the old woman called. "My husband is dead. My children have left me. I'm all alone in this cruel world. Please, lady, I haven't eaten for days." The tradeswoman tossed her hair and looked away in disgust. May you have to beg yourself one day, the old woman shouted after her. May you know what it is to be poor and hungry. The tradeswoman turned back and pulled a gold ring from her finger. She threw it into the Voltava, saying, As I shall never see the ring again, so your words will never come true. The same evening, she hosted a feast in one of her mansions. As her guests tucked into their meals, she cut the fish on her own plate, and to her horror, there inside was the gold ring she had thrown over the bridge. The colour drained from her face as she remembered the words of the beggar woman. The very next day, the tradeswoman learned that she'd been cheated out of a business deal, that one of the houses had been burgled, that one had burned and then another had burned down. With the wink, she was destitute, left with nothing but the claws on her back and the gold ring that had returned to her in the fish. This time she did not halt to toss the ring into the river. She sold it to a goldsmith so she could buy some food, and then went to Kharkov Bridge to find the beggar woman, but she wasn't there. So the tradeswoman sat on the stones, lowered her head and held out her hand, hoping someone would find it in their heart to help her. Many people passed her by, but none offered her so much as a crust of bread. Then, as the sun set, she felt someone press a coin into her palm. She opened her eyes and saw the old beggar woman, dressed as finely as a nobleman's wife. And the lesson to be learned is that she who helps others will be helped. Fortunes rise and fortunes fall, faster than a viewer ferrets down a rabbit hole. Hurrying through the damp arcades and narrow cobbled alleys at the old town, Melina felt the toy maker's loneliness in every person they passed. She saw it in the 100 soldiers of the vagrants who crouched between the crooked headstones of the Jewish cemetery in Joseph. She saw it in the trembling hands of the old woman who sat in the doorway of the church of St. Michael's Mystery, pleading with passerby to buy pieces of her lace, and she glimpsed it in the eyes of the beggar boy in the corner of Jalska and Karlova as they walked across Kulova Bridge, which spans the Vltava River, linking the eastern and western districts of Prague. It felt to Melina as if the waters were shooting tiny splinters of ice at her cheeks, as if the stone statues of saints which frankled either side of the bridge were about to gather her up in their cold grey arms. She could see the bloody fingers of the stonemason who had given his soul to the devil in exchange for his help, rebuilding the bridge, crippling the outer wall. A lone swan beneath the bridge opened its wings and soared away, strong with graceful, as it journeyed in search of its partner. Melina took a hold of Lucas's arm and they trampled silently now through the lesser quarter, climbed Nudiva Hill and reached the castle district, which sparkled beneath the white light of a full moon. And the next chapter in the story will be, because this chapter was quite long this time, some of them are long and some of them are short, but the next chapter that I will read which will be part 3 of this, is At the House of the Golden Acorn. But I hope you're enjoying the story, guys. I did do this last time, the first part, on my channel. If you didn't watch the first part on my channel, it's somewhere around. I might make a playlist for people anyway, so that people can, catch up with it. But I hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys.